Bitcoin billionaire. You embrace that?
You know, I was lucky enough to become a billionaire like in 2007. I was at Fortress. And so making lots of money in Bitcoin was a little easier for me because when I first bought it, I bought a lot, right? If you have a lot of money, you know, it wasn't a lot in percentage terms, but it was a lot notionally. And this is one of the, I mean, I bought Bitcoin at $98 and I bought a lot of it. And it's one of the few assets. We got guys that are billionaires that literally, I know a guy that's worth like 4 billion and his total spend on Bitcoin was 25,000. He just never sold any. There's never been an asset in my lifetime where if you got in early and you held, you just made, you know, stupid amounts of money. And so, yeah, this has been a very good week for people that have big stacks of Bitcoin. And, you know, there are a lot of them.
So where are we headed? I know, you know, even when we spoke at your podcast, you talked about like, and potentially years down the line, 500,000, right? Like that's always been the magical thing of like, how far can Bitcoin really go? So now that we have Trump.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it can now start fulfilling those things. Not right away, but, you know, if gold is now a $17 trillion asset, right? Bitcoin at 86 is a $1.7 trillion asset. So that would be 860.
Yeah.
860K would make it gold. And if Bitcoin's going higher, gold's going higher. And so that's how you can get to 1 million, you know, or 5 years as young people, you know, inherit money from their grandparents who are all going to start dying off. I mean, one of the big things that crypto's got going for it is the old people are going to die and the old people own all the money, right? The baby boomers are by far the wealthiest generation in the history of our country and in the history of the world. And as they start, you know, passing on, you know, I said this about, you know, Charlie Munger, who lived to be late 90s, but most men die at 76. If they're lucky, you go to the mid 80s. As they pass on and that money comes to their family, the kids are much more likely to buy crypto than the grandparents.
When we talk about what we've seen over the past week, and again, we saw each other right before the election, so this is very interesting. The growth has been incredible, right? We're at over 84,000 for the first time in history. What about Trump being president, when we talk about policy and regulation, what specific things have elevated it for the person who's like, wait, this thing is going, why is it going up?
Yeah. So first of all, he has already said he won't sell any of the Bitcoin that the government already owns, which is about $20 billion. So that's a lot of supply that's not going to hit the market. So that's one. Two is, and much more importantly, he's going to pick ahead of the SEC, ahead of the CFTC, ahead of the FDIC, head of the OCC, right, who regulates banks, the head of the Fed and the head of the Treasury, people that like Bitcoin, that like crypto, that like digital assets, that see this as part of America's future. And so people make policy, right? The head of the SEC determines who he wants to go after. My guess is a lot of the regulatory headaches that my firm has had and the industry has had are going to go away in this new regime. You know, it's not like it's going to be a free for all. They'll have some rules, and Congress will pass really quickly, I think, pretty liberal rules around token issuance and around stable coins. And then we're off and running. And then we don't need to go to Washington to complain. Right now, it's up to the crypto community to build an industry.